everybody. Oh, there we go. Hello, everybody. Time to do another guide video, and today's focus is tires, the pits, and we'll talk about weather, although I won't be doing any kind of wet weather running or whatever. And like track conditions as well, I guess, would be a key factor here. So, let's start from the bottom. In ACC, every tire type has a sort of sweet spot range of pressures when it's hot that it should be at. For GT3, this is 27.5 to 28.5. I am told, but I haven't really figured this out because I haven't run the GT4s all that much. It's 26.5 to 27.5. And then for wet tires on the GT3s, it's about 31 psi. So your goal, and I don't know what the wet on the GT4s are. Again, I run predominantly GT3s, but just basically find the number, plug it in there. I'm also seeing the GT4 numbers have like, almost it seems like people are guessing, because there's like very, very different numbers being put up there, even by like YouTube developers and like pro streamers. It's a bit weird in that regard. So I've been using 27 for GT4s and 28 for GT3s in the dry, and then 31 in the wet for GT3s. So you want to get that to that level, and you want to know the condition of the track. So you see up in the upper left-hand corner there, below the clock that's ticking down with session time, you see a track spot there, temperature spot there. Now these are the two things that are important. The track tells you the condition of the track, the temperature gives you the air temp and the track temp. These will be important in balancing your tires. For example, if you have a lower temperature in the air, you can go with lower brake ducts and get a faster car as a result. You'll get more straight line speed because the airflow will be better because you need less air on the brakes to keep them cool enough. The track temperature is obviously going to drastically affect your PSIs. As the track temperature goes up, you're going to want to lower your PSIs. As track temperature goes down, you're going to want to raise your PSIs to keep them in the window, because obviously as air heats up, the pressure will go up. And people are always like, how do I do this? Whatever. You can adjust the pit stops and you need to go run. So let's just go run some laps and see what we got here. So I'm just going to run the aggressive setup so that hopefully we have like a ton to do. All right, so let's get out there. I'm also going to be looking at the starting procedure because some people are messing that up a lot. Now, I know that this server is going to run the practice and the race in very, very similar conditions. And you're not always going to have that. The time of day impacts this. We start our practice and our race at 8 p.m. I might have to adjust that to get the appropriate lighting. Because we ran it last night for the test race, and it wasn't really correct. So, if you look at my tires right now, you can see that they're warming up, but the left in particular is still a little bit cold. It's a little bit cold on the front. And you can see my pressures are not anywhere near where they need to be. Like the sweet spot of 20. If whatever you think the sweet spot is. Like I'm going for 28. If you think it's 28.5, it's 28.5. If you think it's 27.5, it's 27.5. Whatever it is. Either way, we're in the 26s right now, so we're not there. This means the tires are not performing their best right now. They're not really in the temperature window they need to be. They're not really in the pressure window they need to be. I'm going to do 5 laps here, because that'll give us, I think, a decent reading. Anytime I've done less than that, I've found that the reading ends up being just not terribly accurate. So you do need a couple of laps. So you can see it's going up still. We're up to 26 and almost 27 on the left front. Right front is, everything else is kind of in the low to mid 26s. Probably need to go down to first gear at Druids, but oh well. There we are. We're up over 27 on the left front now. Here we go. Finished 4th here in the wet, by the way. That was a pretty good result. But some people fell out, and some people didn't handle the weather very well. Some people did. Kudos to like Keir O'Neill and Javier Perez Torres for running a great race, and Rick Martel for running like great races on the wets all the way through. It was very impressive. And we can also see here, if we move the MFD over to our pit here, we can see that the track is fast right now. So it's not necessarily at its fastest. So I'm not really worried about lap time particularly. I mean, I am. You want to be going faster. But you'll probably go faster once the track hits optimum. I guess the key. If you're practicing on hot lapping mode, for example, you've got optimum tires, so or optimum track, so you won't be as fast right now because we're only fast. There we go. Hey, you picked up some car control, which will probably go down over this track, to be honest, because, well, we just this is a good time anyway. I don't like how the car control is so mercurial, the rating, because like it could be 92 one day if my practice was at a track that I am very in control on, or it can be well, you see what it is. Like if I go to a place like Masana or something where like I'm just inevitably going to score low numbers, it goes down a little too much. So I don't know. I'm both a big fan and not such a big fan of the ACC rating system. I don't really pay attention to it when I'm evaluating drivers, I guess is what it comes down to. Outside of safety rating. And track rating, I guess, because not that I think of it as anything significant, I just think of it as something that shows that at least you're putting effort in. Anyways, we're still going here, so we've got, looks like 28.1, 28.7. Not great lap times, not terrible though. And how are the tires looking? Well, looks like the left front is good. It's up at 28 psi, so probably not much of an adjustment needed there. But the right front and the rears still are pretty out of the zone. They're at least a half psi out of where I want them to be, and probably a full psi easily. From really optimal in my experience. Now again, there are those who claim the optimal is 27.5, so varies person to person, maybe even a little bit car to car. But you're looking to give yourself a reference number, whatever that happens to be. Yeah, a little bit bad through there. I really need to look up the name of that turn. I keep thinking I need to know it, and like that I should know it, and it's slipping my mind. I know a lot of the turns around here because they're F1 champions. Like that was Jim Clark Curve. There's Graham Hill Bend, which is the third turn. Surtees is right after that. Hawthorne Bend, first ever British champion. There's something named after Sterling Moss. I don't know if, I know Henry Surtees died at this track, so I'm wondering if Surtees is actually named after the younger Surtees as opposed to the older one as a memorial tribute. Anyways, so this will be my last lap in here, and then I can do some tire adjustments and show you what we're looking at there. Thought that was going to be a bit of a time gainer, but it only ended up being like 0.06 of a second. Alright, coming to the line. Okay. Get her down to 0. Get back in the pits. Okay. So, we go to setup. And we bring up the current setup. So, PSI hot, 27.9, and a pretty decent OMI, which is the outside, middle, and the inside. This tire, pretty much good to go. This one, though, not so much. The temperatures look good, but the PSI is not good. 26.7, so we need to increase that. We'll increase it 1. And then over here, same thing. 1 up. Temps are good. You kind of want the middle to be in the the middle temperature. The outside's the coldest, the inside's the hottest. So the temps are all looking good. We'll just add another 1 there as well. Probably not right. The backs probably aren't great. What I would then do is I would go out again, and I would do another lap, another set of laps. See where I am, adjust as needed. So rinse, lather, repeat. Like I said, the arrow in here, you can drop the brake ducts, and which is a super basic thing to do. And you can also change the brakes you're using here. They're 2s right now. 1s are the fastest. And the tire stuff. Okay. Let's say, for argument's sake, that we are done. That we've found a perfect set of temperatures, and we're ready to move on. Okay. So let me go next, and alright, so say we're at the end of qualifying, we've done our qualifying. Alright, so now we're going to set up our pit stop and stuff. So fuel, 62 liters. I've got this set up, so I need to change tires, and I need fuel. So pit stop number 1, let's say 25 liters of fuel. Let's say tire set number 3. Now what I usually like to do is this, though. I'll start the race on tire set 10, having not used it, using the single digits for practice and qualifying, and then switch to tire set number 11. That's something I do just to remember it. Use current pressures. This brings in our adjustments. You can also change brakes here if you want. And then I would set up a second one here for wet tire. And then I would set up a third one maybe for like this would be like just a damage setup, so I'd be like nothing there, and then I would have like don't change tires, which we'll go through in a second. So this is your basic strategy stuff, and whatever. I'll move this back here so it starts off with this. Okay, so I'm ready for that. Let's talk real quick about track and the wet. So when the rain comes, you'll start to see over here. Is it catching my... It is not catching my cursor. Hang on 1 second. Video, can I get the cursor? Damn, I can't find it. I'd have to record this whole thing again. Okay, so over by, in the upper left-hand corner, you have a forecast coming up. There's the current time in 10 minutes and 30 minutes. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about there. This tells you what's going to happen, so this maybe informs you whether you need to have that wet setup ready. The track condition, when it goes to damp or greasy, tends to actually still be more or less a dry tire track, and the game will often tell you what the optimal tire is. And it's only when it goes to full wet that the wet tires are really in. But you would make some guesses. Let's say that we had a damp race to start, but there was rain forecasted. You might want to go with the wet tires because it's going to get wet before you want to make your pit stop. And the wet tires will work, although they will be very hot in a greasy or damp situation. Something that people ran into the other night was they were on wet tires at the end of the race, and of course they were very, very hot, but they'd saved themselves a pit stop by not pitting. So you would have the options there. That's really all I have to talk about on the wet. Okay, so let's get into the race, and I will do a pit stop as well as a start. Okay. For the next session, here we go. Load me into the race, please. Alright. So we're doing the countdown here. We've already set up our pits. Over on the right-hand side, you will see your pit stop requirements. You can see there that it says mandatory pit stop 1. Pit window has to be open. Tire change has to be done. And refueling has to be done. Driver swap does not have to be done. Also over there, you can see the length of the race. Not the length of the window, surprisingly enough. So that's the one thing that you might ask the admin for. We see track temperature is optimum, so we're going to be going nice and fast. Track temp 24. Looks like or track temp, air temp 24, I should say. We've got clear skies for the entire time, so we're good to go. We're just chilling. We're waiting. We're happy. Now in this case, I'm going to have the window open the entire race. I just set that up so I can do a quick pit stop. So tricking down. Of course, this would be where you would kind of notice maybe some changes. If the track is a little bit warmer than you're expecting, you can drop the pressures. If the track is a little bit colder than you're expecting, you can raise them a little bit. I'm told it's about 1/10 of a PSI to a degree. Someone in the comments can correct me on that. I haven't found that to be quite correct, but I did find that from a reliable source. No? Alright. Okay, so we're ready to go. Let's get rid of the pit menu for now. And turn the car on. Hit the starter. You can see that we have the pit window all valid. Everything's green. We're good to go in that regard. And we're going to roll out here. Okay. Come on, let me go. Sometimes it starts a little bit weird. So here, we're just staying in the green on the widget there in the middle. And if we get too close to a car ahead of us, we might get a drive-through penalty. Now, in this case, there's nobody for me to kind of demonstrate that with. There's also, if I go too fast and get into the red, I'll get sent back to the pits. I'm seeing a lot of people sent back to the pits. I'm seeing some drive-through penalties. So let's try and get rid of that if we can. So, too fast, slow it down. Keep it under 70. Here we go. Alright, so it's telling me to complete my pit stop before the mandatory window closes. The window is already open, so that's not a problem. It's just the length of the race. So we can pit easily. Now, I'm trying to set up an idea here that maybe the tires are not right, so I can show you how to adjust on there. At any point, you can pull up your pit menu, and you can see how much fuel you're putting in, which strategy you're using. This is important, because the game sometimes glitches and sends you to the last strategy. Hasn't done that in a while for me, but I used to be in the habit of making my last strategy, which is like 32 or something, the exact same as my first one, so that I wouldn't ever have that problem. I've kind of gotten out of that habit because it seems to stop doing that, but keep that in mind. That was a thing, and what was once a thing can always become a thing again. And here I could adjust how much fuel I'm going to put in. I can adjust, you can toggle change tires or not. This is important because a lot of races require you to change tires, of course. And you can also check your tire set here, because if I go back to 10, it's just going to put those tires back. It's not going to change the tires, it's just going to leave the tires I have right now on. Ooh, actually, I'm in dry set 2. Okay, so if I'd have to go like really far back to... Oh, it won't let me do that anymore. Okay. So, that's helpful. Okay. You could also turn off the suspension or bodywork changes and adjust your pressures as needed. So let's complete the next lap and have a look at our pressures and see if maybe there's something to gain it from. And there's going to be, because the tires aren't like fully up to temperature. But let's just say that we've been going for like, 12, 15 laps. We're actually more in a proper pit lane or pit window situation. And we can handle things better. We've got an idea of what's going on. The weather has sorted itself out more or less. Things are gonna not rain or whatever. And I look over at my tires and we're in the 26. We're in the high 26s on the left front. All right, this is maybe a little bit. I'm gonna do another lap because this is slightly unrealistic. Like if you're this far off on pressures, you have some significant problems. We'll do another lap and get them up to the point where at least they're like within a PSI of where they need to be. Sort of thing. Okay. So through Jim Clark curve. About 37 minutes left in the pit window. Not a problem. Alright. You could also do this all in the pit lane when you hit it. You can change things. And normally I will. It depends. Like if I had a car right on my tail right now, I would not be messing with the pit menu. Let's just put that way. I know at Hungaroring there was a driver who caused an accident because they were adjusting their pit stop. And always remember, that's not going to be considered an a viable excuse. So here we go. Alright, so now the tires are looking okay. So we're, what, 4/10, maybe a half PSI off on the left front. The right front is about 2/10 off. And then about a half on the left rear and a little bit more than that on the right rear. Now keep in mind, it's not an exact silence. Like if I'm a half PSI off and I just add a half PSI, there is a chance, and this is why you redo it multiple times in practice, that's going to offset the other tires. Because obviously if you change one tire, it's going to change them all to a certain degree. So where's the pit line? There's the pit line. Keep in mind, unless you're in certain GT4s, you need to be in Gear 1 for the pit limiter to work. You can bound a button, you can use electronics, so I'm going to add 4 PSI, 3, or 4/10 of PSI, 3, half, and then 7. This is the part I'm bad at, is stopping on the mark. Alright. So you'll notice that the pit stop here is taking 30 seconds. This is something that a lot of people don't really get. They're like, oh, do I refuel? Okay, if it's a mandatory pit stop for tires, you're refueling. Because it's going to take 30 seconds. Because it's a minimum. Because it's simulating, to a certain degree, the fact that in SRO, you're often having a driver swap occur right here. So there's a minimum time. Now, little trick is you can turn the car back on while it's on its jacks. And then you just have to press the starter. So there we are. Mandatory pit stop completed. And back out we go. Okay. So I'll take a lap or two here just to maybe summarize some other things I've noticed, some problems maybe that exist. Okay. So I've said this before, the MFD can be used for a lot of things. So what I'm on right now is called the relative MFD. This is going to show me the cars around me. So this is a good way of finding who's on blue flag, who am I rapidly catching, potential traffic issues if somebody's like off the track, for example. If you just want to see where you are in relation to people you're racing, you can turn it over to here to the overall MFD. You can also break that down by class if you're in a mixed class server, so that it will ignore. Although, to be honest, in a mixed class server, I don't know why you would be behind the other class. That'd be a bit weird. But there is that. You have your electronics panel here. You can adjust brake bias. So there, I've moved my brake bias a little bit forward now. You can turn up the ABS, turn up the traction control. You can see it's adjusting in the lower right-hand corner there. I can change my lights. I have my lights on auto, so it's not letting me do that. But if you have it on manual, you can do that. You can do wipers here as well. Yeah, same thing. I put my wipers on manual. Rain lights, indicators. You can change your dash here, your race logic here. I don't tend to do anything with them. You can also do ignition here, although I really recommend binding a button for that. And then there's the aforementioned pit menu here, where you can have a look at everything and see what's going on pit stop wise. That's really about all that I really thought of. Something to note is more traction control is a thing. Find what works for you. Some people run high, some people run low, some people feel like the chronic need to never have traction control. That's silly. The car has traction control. Professional drivers use traction control. The idea that you wouldn't, for some kind of realism or challenge or whatever, is a bit ridiculous. I mean, try driving the Maserati. It's got no traction control. It's terrible. So there's that. I don't think I really have anything else to talk about. Everything else has been really handled in other guides on this channel. So check them out. Check other YouTubers out if you need to. I mean, obviously, I'm trying to provide one-stop shopping here. But obviously, if you want to consult racers much better than I am, please do. I'm just addressing things that have come up in the process of penalties and things of that nature. Oh, so I'll add one more quick thing. A lot of people clearly don't do their homework when they come on the server. And they'll be asking questions like, oh, how much fuel is this? It's an incredibly bad habit just because, here's the thing. Assuming the person is not your teammate and therefore is not running the exact same setup as you, same engine modes, same traction control, same basic suspension, whatever, you're going to have the problem that the information you're being given can't be trusted, either because somebody else's information is different because the cars have vastly different fuel consumption, for example, or they're straight up lying to you because, I mean, realistically, if somebody is not self-interested in your success, why are you trusting them? I'm not saying our fast guys would ever lie to you or send you astray or whatever. They tend to be very trustworthy. It's just, do the work yourself. You can get a fuel calculator online. You can use the in-game fuel calculator like we have here. You can use a spreadsheet like I do, which allows me to come up with various different scenarios and things to work with. Actually, it looks like I almost got the tires perfect, except for the left front. Or the left rear, pardon me. It's a little bit overinflated. But I'm pretty damn close, actually. So, there we go. That's pit stops. That's the start of the race. That's tires, track conditions, utilizing the HUD once again, which I think I had another video on, but, you know, it doesn't hurt to include it here. And I hope that this helps you get off your feet in Assetto Corsa Competizione, because it's a really fun game, although looks like my new graphic settings probably are going to have to be abandoned because I'm seeing my FPS is actually dropping below 100. I put the 100 as the limit in hopes that you can create a smooth experience, but it looks like 90 might be really the maxed out for me, at least with this game, which is a shame because the benchmarks I had when I was putting this computer together suggested way higher frame rate was possible, so that's a little disappointing. Anyways, we'll finish up by diving into the pits here. Into pit lane we go. Down into first. Pit limiter on. And into the pits we go. So, You can also turn your pit limiter on via the pit menu there. Although I have a button bound for it. You should really bind that button to something else. Flashers, maybe. I don't know. That's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found it useful, and I hope to see you on track. So there we go.